Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful 6th of September, 2023. The Tuesday Rant, Wednesday edition of the Crusty podcast. Today's episode is talking about Tamara Lititz in court, along with Chris Barber. The Z Cup teacher returns back to work and school, and PM Trudeau in his trip in Asia trying to sell Canada, and the whole climate emergency stuff, blah, blah, blah. Plus some updates and some riots in Calgary with Eritrean immigrants. All that more come up to the show. Please stick around. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. This is not meant for children. I do swear and smoke cigarettes. See you in a bit.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me. Yes, sir. There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast, a Canadian veteran's point of view on political, social, economic issues and life. Here's Crusty.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This episode of the Tuesday Rant was originally formatted yesterday. However, I had some technical difficulties with it, so I didn't change the title card. I just changed the day. Anyhow, I'm your host, Crusty Canuck, and welcome all, and thank you all for who have understood and stuck around. My apologies last night for not showing up. Like I said, I had some technical issues. The network was down for some reason, so I had to turn on the computer, off the computer, check to see what was going on, troubleshoot, all that good stuff. And apparently I've been getting hacked. Interesting, eh? No, nonetheless. Anyway, as the episode will, as said, Tamara Lititz in court, and the Z Cup teacher is back at it again, and Justin Trudeau, our infamous potato puppet leader, is in Asia trying to sell Canada yet again. I'm your host, Crusty, and if you like and hear what you see, please click like and subscribe and share this podcast all of your social media platforms. Give me a thumbs up if you see me on the Tube and on the Rumble application. Get the algorithm going, get us connects, and get our words out there for you, my wonderful audience, too. And I've been seeing the stats on my Podbean page. It's getting up there. So thank you to my American and Canadian listeners out there who have downloaded the show and listened to it. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. I'm honored, totally honored. And I also want to say thank you out there to the fine people at Northern Perspective, Cypher and Fox, for putting on some great content and giving me a mention or two every time they go on their show. So once again, thanks. Big round of applause for you all out there. You guys are wonderful. You guys are awesome. And let's just keep the show going, ladies and gentlemen. So like I say, this episode, Tamara Lititz is in court now, day 2 of the proceedings. Haven't heard much. I don't really watch a lot of the mainstream media in regards to court justice and what have you. I don't really listen to a lot of it because a lot of them are full of it. Okay. Now, my wife and I, we watch CTV in the morning. Usually she gets over to work and she goes to work and I go to work, kind of thing. Just a routine thing, just to get a sense of what's going on in the world. But we're all guilty of seeing mainstream media lie about things and promote narratives in favor of certain politicians and certain leaders here and certain leaders there. Yet we don't find the truth. So I'm going to be adding a little column here from Rebel Media later in regards to some of the reaction to Tamara Lititz in court. Some of the civilians, I guess you can say, some Ottawans, citizens of Ottawa, nonetheless, speaking their mind against her. Well, that'll come up later in the show. But I've been seeing a lot of Twitter feeds, X feeds, in regards to how, some people say they should throw the book at Miss Tamara Lititz because of her incompetence, because of her tyranny. And when you actually sit and watch her being interviewed, she is the furthest thing from being a tyrant that this country's ever seen. She has displayed more integrity, has more balls than our leaders, and just stood up for something that she believed in. Now, whether you agree with the convoy or not, and I've, banged some heads with fellow vets, and I've banged some heads with some family members in regards to what a freedom convoy is. And they call it a freedom convoy because they wanted freedom from this whole mandate that was going on with the pandemic and the jibby jabs. They got sick of it because a year prior to that, our own prime minister was praising truckers for the outstanding work they are doing by getting products to market and getting food on the shelf so people can buy it. Right. And yet they started putting more regulations on what you had to wear in your face, what you had to stick in your body, going across the border and back and forth, what have you. More regulations, and a stupid app you had to put on one of these just to make everything safe. When you and I both know, ladies and gentlemen, it's been nothing but government monetization, monitoring you, getting money from you, and paying big bucks for ridiculous application, right? So we can sit here all day and discuss the pros and cons on how these people were compromising this, and they did nothing but promote tyranny and fear. And yet there is tons of footage out there, ladies and gentlemen, for you to check out for yourself by the likes of Viva Fry, Greg Wycliffe, and other independent media outlets that were in ground zero in Ottawa during those weeks, a year and a half ago, who saw what was going on. Was there some thuggery? Yeah, it was minor in comparison. Was there some bad language? Yeah. Was there inconvenience? Yeah. But people weren't beaten up. Fires weren't set ablaze. Businesses were not destroyed. In fact, a lot of those businesses were ordered to be closed or to face the consequences. And that came from Viva Fry, and that came from Greg Wycliffe, who were in ground zero and saw what was going on. They actually talked to certain shop owners, right? Now, I know CTV put a story up there of one barber shop. She closed the doors because she was scared for her life. Okay. But there were other restaurants and coffee shops that could have made a killing in the downtown core, could have made a lot of money keeping these people fed, keeping coffee going, getting their product out there, and almost to recover from the pandemic. But city councilors and city officials more or less threaten these people. You open up, this is what will happen. So there's that side of the story there too that we don't really hear from the MSM. So when people ask me my opinion about how I felt about the convoy, I was all for it. Oh my goodness, how dare you stand for that? How dare you stand for that tyranny? Oh, how could you? I stood for it because I was sent to Afghanistan in 2007 to fight for other people's freedoms. So were some of my brothers and sisters. And we all know what happened after that, don't we? Right? So when people say, oh, you're not fighting for freedom, you're standing for tyranny, and yet you have a mask on your face and you're bragging about how many jibby jabs you have, followed by your ridiculous pronouns, people get a little disenchanted with that because you're not promoting freedom, you're promoting fucking compliance. Okay? You're not promoting the idea of going about your business, doing your thing, having the ability to make money and to carry on with your life. No, big government daddy says I should do this, so therefore I'm going to do it. Okay. We're going to have a party. Who's coming? I'm not.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
Welcome back to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Crusty Canuck, and this is episode 227. That's right. It's dated for 5th September. I know today's the 6th. Like I said, Tamara Lititz in court, Z Cup teacher back to work, and PM Trudeau in Asia. Now, I'm going to read a little article here from the National Post. It's basically just stating the fact on how our justice system needs work. Now, I don't know if this writer actually agrees with what she did or what the convoy did, but it's pretty good tongue-in-cheek, and I'll leave it in my description for you to read and follow at your leisure. However, it's a pretty good article in regards to how this court case is looming and how it's working. And let's hope it works in her favor and their favor. Everyone who took part in the convoy, it works well in their favor, because I'd hate to see good people sit in the cooler just because there might be a few justice ministers or a few justices scared. So the article is basically Carson Jeremiah. Tamara Lititz exposed of the incompetence of the Canadian state. A G7 nation that can't handle anything more serious than a speeding ticket without collapsing into chaos is a real crime here. So more or less, he's saying this country doesn't need balls. And he's right. A lot of our leaders have got no balls, eh? Right. Tamara Lititz, the Freedom Convoy leader whose trial begins this week, is no hero. She led a protest movement that illegally occupied downtown Ottawa for 3 weeks, blocking access to roads and local businesses. Though largely non-violent, the convoy was an extreme nuisance that went beyond the mere inconvenience expected of a large demonstration. But if Lich is no hero, neither is she a terrorist, insurrectionist leader, or a fascist plotter, as so many of her critics in the media and the Liberal Party desperately want her to be. Now, like I said, I'm going to show a video later about some person in Ottawa confronting her and explaining her outrage. It's about 2 minutes long, so bear with me. Had a group of protesters calling itself Freedom Convoy descended on the Capitol, but instead of standing against pandemic restrictions, they stood for abortion rights, or were supporting Black Lives Matter, or were demanding the right for solar panels to be declared sentient beings. The narrative surrounding the protest would be so much different. And he's got a point there, too. When the the BLM marches were happening in Canada and the riots that happened in the States, there was no panic, no Maydays, no nothing, right? But instead of the unfounded epithets of racist and misogynist being hurled from people with degrees in journalism or sociology, the protesters would have been heralded as very brave. And if the government had dared to invoke the Emergencies Act to quell the uprising, the move would have been condemned, correctly I might add, as unnecessary, illiberal, and an authoritarian overreaction. So it just goes to prove that, based in his opinion, based on what we have seen in the mainstream media, ladies and gentlemen, that regardless of where you stand, regardless of where you stand on freedom, democracy, freedom of expression, it has to be the right kind of protest so the government can, leave you alone, right? Government has to agree with what you're doing. If government agrees with what you're doing, then it should be simple enough to change the laws around, right? Right. But no, they held on to dear life for the mandates. They held on dear life for the transportation regulations, the federal regulations, i.e. being on a train or a plane. What you have to do, get your jibby jab or else. Shame on you. You're killing grandma. It took blue-collar people to sit there and say, enough. So I wonder how they're going to treat these individuals during this trial. Now, it's set to go on for a month. The charges are mischief, inciting mischief, I believe, and disagreeing with the police on some format like that. But I'll leave the article in the description for you to follow too. It's a pretty good read, and I highly suggest you wonderful people out there take a long look at it and think for yourself on what is good and what is bad when it comes to protesting in this country. Okay, what are we allowed to do? What are we not allowed to do, right? If the federal government can take it upon itself to incorporate said act, especially a minority government like the Trudeau government, incorporate that act, what else are they going to incorporate in case they get scared again? Sun's too hot one day, stay indoors. It's too cold outside, stay indoors. Right? There's rumblings already in the works about another mandate coming up to cover up your face and hope for the best and kiss your ass goodbye. Right? So what else are we going to do? What else are they going to promote? Right? I could just hear the conspiracy theorists come out and say, oh, it's a control thing. Oh, it's a mandate thing. Yeah, it probably is. Maybe it was an experiment. I don't know. But needless to say, there are innocent people being put on trial for standing up for what's right. As the article said, it was nonviolent. And the only violence that we saw from what we saw here in the West was the simple fact that the cops were instigating a lot of it too. Police forces that were called in en masse to get things done in a timely manner. Right? It makes you think, who can you trust? So let's hope for the best for Tamara Lich and Chris Barber for their efforts to get things done. And let's hope justice doesn't rear its ugly head like it has before.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
Anyway, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 227 of the Tuesday Rant, Crusty Canuck podcast, Wednesday edition. My apologies once again for not getting an episode loaded up yesterday. Like I said, I had some technical issues with the network here, but all is good now too. And stay tuned. There will be a Canadian Polar Vortex, a bullshit segment coming up too. So hang on to that. Anyhow, like the title card says, Zed Cup teacher is back at it again. Yes, we're starting a new school year. And therefore, we're going to have more people coming back to class, college, young kids, all that good stuff. And an education would not be complete if Mr. or Miss Kayla Lemieux was back in the work. She made some controversy last year in regards to the size of her prosthetic breasts. This is from Breitbart, an American company. I know they just tend to write some better articles in our mainstream media. I know Rebel and True North has done some good stories on this individual. And ladies and gentlemen, don't get me wrong, I am all for freedom of expression. You know, don't label me as a transphobe or homophobe or a xenophobe because I make fun of somebody dressing funny. We're all guilty of it one way or the other. We all make fun of people sometimes when they have a big schnauzer or big eyes, whatever. Needless to say, I'm going to read this article, and you decide, ladies and gentlemen. So, Canadian teacher Kayla Lemieux ditches Z-cup breasts, or was it all a hoax? That's right. The apparent transgender Canadian teacher who went viral for wearing a wig and gigantic prosthetic breasts at school last fall has ditched that look for an upcoming school year, causing many to wonder if his getup was all a hoax. Kayla Lemieux, the Canadian teacher known for wearing a wig and Z-cup prosthetic breasts under form-fitting tops, was recently seen walking around clad in men's attire with a scruffy beard and no breasts or wig, according to the photos and video obtained by the Daily Mail. Yeah, they actually went to this guy's house and tried to talk to him. So there's a video in this link that I will leave in the description for you to follow along too. But this individual made a big stink last year working in a shop class with these humongous cojones. Sorry. Like, I would feel bad for those kids sitting there looking at this person just going, like, how do you function? Right? How do you function? Anyhow, Lemieux has been showing up to the Norrell Francis Henderson Secondary School in Hamilton, Ontario, dressed as a man just days before classes are set to begin, leaving many wondering if the stunt he pulled last year was all a hoax. The Canadian school teacher did not respond when he was questioned by Daily Mail reporter who asked him why he claimed his breasts were real when he knew they were not. I mean, Lemieux also did not respond after being asked if he'd show up to teach classes dressed as a man or woman. Each to their own, okay? And you'll see pictures in this link, too, of him walking around normal as a regular dude, and then he's got these humongous knockers hanging down, you know, with a mask on, looking like, oh, he's just a sensation. Anyhow. What gets me, this individual's 40 years old, too. So he knows better. He just doesn't want to. So the teacher has previously insisted his enormous breasts were real, which he had said was a result of a rare condition called gigantomastia. Yeah, I can't pronounce it. It's a new affliction. Oh, who knew? And claimed that he was not transgender, but rather intersex, meaning he was born with both male and female organs. Okay, intersex. I thought we called that hermaphrodites. I'm not sure. You know, I don't care. You know, it's just, let's politicize everything. I farted the other day. Let's call it a liberal. Fuck, whatever. Okay, Lemieux has also admitted that he did not have any proof from a doctor to back up his claims. As Breitbart News reported earlier this year, Lemieux was placed on paid leave from his job working as a teacher at the Oakville Trafalgar High School in Oakville, Ontario, after photos surfaced of him outside the classroom wearing his large prosthetic breasts were nowhere to be seen, calling into question his transgender bona fides. Okay, so he's either playing or just being a goof. Needless to say, ladies and gentlemen, it's just odd, you know, when you look at this whole trans issue and trend and don't say this and don't say that and don't do this and don't do that. Meanwhile, certain individuals of said community can parade around naked, show off a prosthetic whatever, whether it's breasts or whether it's a ding dong or whatever, and parlay around like it's, you know, the God-given right to explore every orifice around them. Okay. Now, I have done some shady things in my life, in my past, and I'm not proud of, but I never assaulted anybody or I never rubbed it in anyone's faces. That's just me, though, ladies and gentlemen. Like, as a libertarian, it's like, hey, do what you want to do as long as you hurt people taking their stuff. But there's other ways you can hurt people without using violence, okay? Messing with kids' heads, messing with young minds in order to mold them into whatever narrative you want to promote. Every tyrant has done that throughout history. And it doesn't matter if you're Democratic, doesn't matter if you're a commie, doesn't matter if you're a bloody fascist. They've all gone after kids. So it's something to think about, right? Anyway, carrying on with this lovely episode 227, the Tuesday Rant Wednesday edition. Tamara Lititz in court, Club Z. Remember that? To my Canadian fans out there, Z-Cup teacher back to work. And of course, our beloved Prime Minister in Asia trying to sell the Canadian brand once again, like he hasn't tarnished it enough already. But I don't know. You decide, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to sit and tell people how to dress and what to do, what's tactful, what isn't tactful, what's professional decorum or not. You decide that. But if I was sending my nephew or my niece to that school, I'd pull them out, right? It's like, whatever you do in your bedroom is your business. I don't care. Do it fine, do it well, do the best of your ability, but keep it out of the classroom, right? Kids are there to learn. They want to know the pros and cons of how to cut a piece of wood properly and effectively, measure twice, cut once, that kind of thing. They don't care what's hanging down your chest. They don't care what you wear. They don't care what you do on a Saturday night when no one's looking. They want you to show them how to do the job properly. So if they do get into the workforce, end up getting into carpentry or the trades, then they can do it effectively because you taught them how to do it well, not because you decided to dress up as a cat lady or as a glorified stripperella just to prove a point. You know what I mean? Something to think about, ladies and gentlemen. Anyhow, without further ado, and back by popular demand, ladies and gentlemen, we have another beautiful segment of the infamous, you know it, that's right, the infamous
The Canadian Polar Vortex of Bullshit.
That's right, the infamous Canadian Polar Vortex of Bullshit, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, and with what I saw in the news today, there's a special candidate who actually earns the Canadian Polar Vortex of Bullshit. Now, I can't remember if I actually picked this gentleman before or not, but just on his buffoonery, based on his whining and his pining and his crying and his everlasting virtue signaling, the Canadian Polar Vortex of Bullshit goes to none other than, wait for it, Mr. Jagmeet Singh, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations, Jagmeet. Congratulations on it. NDP leader extraordinaire, victim blamer, finger wagger, all that kind of stuff. And the first person to call anyone racist who disagrees with him. So, Mr. Jagmeet Singh, please tell me exactly, how do you really feel about winning the Canadian Polar Vortex of Bullshit award? Take your time, sir. No, nothing to say? Well, Miss Freeland did the same thing last segment. Please tell us how you feel. Can you say that again? A little bit slower the next time, though, please, if you could. Oh, okay. Well, that's odd. Miss Freeland said the same thing last segment, but okay, I guess you're on the same wavelength, worrying about money and worrying about the plight of the homeless in this country, and yet you stay in bed with the Liberals all the time. You were supporting Justin. You've been supporting Justin since last fall. So now you're telling me that you're speaking out against him? Can you, I don't know, can you be a little more specific?
I'm so happy I could just shit.
Well, okay. I asked you a question about Justin, but if that's your answer, then fine. That's okay. I'll go about my business and just, never mind at all. Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations, Mr. Jagmeet Singh, for being a phony and for being a dog and for complying to Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party's way. Okay. And you got no respect for me, sir. And this is not a racist thing. This is just a man-to-man thing. You're a schmuck. Okay. Anyhow, this has been another segment of
The Canadian Polar Vortex of Bullshit.
And I really, really hope you recover there, Mr. Singh. And we'll be right back after this.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
That's right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Crusty Canuck Podcast. I'm your host, Crusty Canuck. And one more time, if you like and hear what you see, please click like and subscribe and share this podcast all around your social media platform. Try to give me a thumbs up there on the tube and on Rumble. Give me a comment or two, get the algorithm going, because it all starts with you, you wonderful people out there. And once again, thank you to all my Podbean subscribers who have downloaded my show. I guess I'm about 11,000 downloads now, according to the last stats I saw. So I'm like, right on. This is great. Fantastic. Thank you very much. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate the dedication and people giving me a chance to get my work out there. And it's all because of you, you wonderful people. Anyway, carrying on with this episode, 227, the Tuesday Rant Wednesday edition. Tamara Lititz in court, Zed Cup teacher back to work, and of course, our beloved Prime Minister in Asia. Now, I don't have any clips or footages or montages of Potato Puppet. Needless to say, he's in Asia right now on tour. Big G20 is going to happen in India, I think at the end of this week. So he's going to try to sell Canada on clean technology and the climate crisis and all this stuff too. Now, I am sure the majority of my fans out there have heard me rant and rave about how this climate emergency is just getting ridiculous, okay? We just spent the better part of the summer in the some parts of our country, and those poor people in Hawaii who have gone through absolute hell because of the so-called wildfires due to climate change, which is bullshit because deadfall doesn't spontaneously combust. Neither does dry grass, okay? Or dry trees or any kind of dry grass that's flammable. It doesn't just spontaneously combust because it's windy one morning. It has to be ignited by something. Somebody has to drop a cigarette or forget a campfire. There's been proof that sparks have been flying out of certain ATVs on any given day that might cause a fire. Or some shithead goes in the bush with one of these and goes, you know what I'm saying? So something to think about. They've lifted the ban. The people are returning to Yellowknife, Northwest Territories right now as we speak, which is good to assess the damage and get their lives back in order. And once again, to my friends in Hawaii, my sincerest condolences. I know they're still finding bodies and stuff, and it's just, wow. And I know I'm kind of drifting here, but our prime minister now is in Indonesia, I think, for today. And then he's off to India, I think, probably Friday for the G20. Now, when you look at two countries in Asia that burn a lot of coal and pollute, you look at Red China and you look at India. Okay. Densely populated, lots of coal. And yet our prime minister and Mr. Stephen Guilbeault, who is in bed with the Chinese Communist Party because he's part of their environmental committee to assess and to cater to those powers, right? They're not there in our favor, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think Justin Trudeau has done anything in our favor since he was elected. Okay. Now, there's a lot of blowhards that I've seen on the X application, formerly Twitter. A lot of blowhards I see on Facebook once in a while saying, Justin does a wonderful job. He's your best friend, gives you a slap and tickle for your pickle and your wallet, and gives us tax rebates. Oh, my. No, he doesn't. He's increased the debt in this country. He's lied about renewable resources because you and I both know, ladies and gentlemen, that the wind will not suffice and solar will not suffice. Now, on a personal level, you could harness the wind and the solar and try to run your household. Can you run a town on it, though? No. Germany had to go back to using coal, okay? Other parts of Europe had to go back to using coal, too, because they thought their wind and the solar was going to save the day. And it didn't. And it won't. Because there's the science that is factual. There's the science that's not being paid off in droves to follow the narrative. Now, I don't care what the censors say right now. Okay. Wind can be sufficient to a degree. So can solar be sufficient to a degree. Once you invent a solar panel that can withstand and take in a lot of the sun's light and energy without getting damaged via hail or record low temperatures, we know when it's cold, and the same thing with these wind turbines, okay? But what powers these wind turbines too? Wind, and what lubricates them? Fossil fuels. Don't tell me they have gallons upon gallons of vegetable oil up there to keep everything running smoothly, okay? And when these solar panels get damaged, how do they get replaced? Can they be recycled? Can any of these items be recycled and reclaimed again for other uses? No, they can't. So that's something to think about, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to harping about renewables. How come we don't get into hemp production? There's a plant right there that you can make without the THC that can provide a food source, that can also provide clothing, building material, and biodiesel or biofuel. Oh my, what a fantastic idea. Why don't we get into that kind of production too? Right? Because there's powers that be that want to have a monopoly on what you and I do. It's that simple. Doesn't matter what state you're in. Doesn't matter what province you're in. Doesn't matter what part of the globe you're in. You have a working democracy. Yeah. Everybody wants a piece of your fucking pie. So, but there's an idea though, hemp production too. And how we can be sufficient without being reliant on any kind of grid or any kind of government format. Because you and I both know, ladies and gentlemen, there's too much bloody regulations out there to thwart us and to hurt us too. Anyhow, in other news too, there was a big issue in Calgary recently. There was Eritrean Canadians, Eritrean immigrants who have come to Canada and for a better life, which is nothing wrong with anybody coming to Canada for a better life. Any working democracy, there is nothing wrong with that too. But this past weekend, Labor Day weekend, there was some issues with the Eritreans gathering in Calgary. And this is an article from National Post by Sam Riches. Eritrean celebration turns violent in Calgary amid political divisions. There's more footage of this on the Rebel channel too, if you guys, I'll put this in the description for you. Riot between anti-Eritrean government protesters in blue and pro-government Eritrean protesters broke out during a soccer tournament promoting the world peace at the Roslyn Park in Edmonton, Saturday, Calgary, August 19th. Oh, this is the 19th of August. Oh my God. Okay. Well, my apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, I'll leave this article in the description for you to follow. Calgary police are investigating after violent conflict involving about 150 people broke out in the city's Falcon Ridge neighborhood on Saturday. The incident believed to have involved Eritrean groups who hold conflicting views about the country's governance and politics and happened just weeks after violent clashes at Eritrean cultural festivals in Edmonton and Toronto. So it's kind of a national thing, ladies and gentlemen. Similar incidents have also recently occurred in Sweden, Germany, and Israel, where more than 100 people were injured after Eritrean embassy held an event to mark 30 years since independence. Eritrea, a country of about 3.6 million people in the Horn of Africa, has been ruled by President Isaias Afwerki and his party, the People's Front for Democracy and Justice, PFDJ, since gaining independence from Ethiopia in 1993. Right. Eritrea operates as a one-party state with the PFDJ exercising total control over aspects of governance. And Afwerki, 77 years of age, has been characterized as a brutal dictator leading one of the world's most oppressive governments. 2016 United Nations Commission of Inquiry report found the government's totalitarian practices had manifested in the wholesale disregard for liberty of Eritrea's citizens, including the suppression of dissent, limited civil liberties, and a national conscription program. So I'll leave this article in the description for you all to read at your own leisure, ladies and gentlemen. The thing being, you're in Canada now, folks. Okay. You have the freedom to express yourself any way you want. Okay. But you'll see a picture in that article too, where they're holding these big sticks, which kind of brings me back to the first point of the podcast too, about justice. You get a group of individuals that are being tried for mischief. You get a group of individuals that are being tried for conspiracy to mischief. And yet you have 150 people in one city, 100 people in another city with sticks and batons causing shit. Yet they're not going to jail. Interesting. Why is that? Now, I'm not saying it's a racial thing. However, Bill C-75 that the Liberals passed, I think 2 years ago, basically puts that into account when it comes to arresting and putting somebody in the slammer, right? Which isn't fair to anybody at all. Nobody in this country, right? So while this is happening in our cities and in cities in Europe, okay, people are concentrating on a few people that organize a convoy to say enough of the mandates. Contrast and perspective is key here, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you think about it. I sure am. I was raised in a household that if you do something stupid, you pay for it. If you borrow money, you put it back. If you help somebody, you hope to God they help you. That kind of thing. Give and take, back and forth, everything's fine. And when I became an adult, I started realizing that liberty starts with you as the individual. You are the authority. Okay. But I also believe too that you don't hit people and take their stuff. regardless of where they sit in the political fence or not. Okay. Now, if they do something stupid to somebody or hurt somebody, then whatever. But on a day-to-day life, as you see this or see that, leave people alone. Let people thrive, regardless of the political turmoil in whatever country that they come from. It doesn't matter. You're here now. You're safe. You're good to go. Kind of reminds me of the old Catholic versus Protestant mentality that happened many moons ago. And there's still some people that hold that residual to their heart. But I don't tolerate that kind of behavior, and neither should you. Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, I have been Crusty Canuck on this beautiful 6th of September, 2023. I hope everybody had a great Labor Day weekend. Like I say, please click like and subscribe. Share this content all over your social media platforms to the best of your ability. Help us Canucks get our words out there. And hopefully we can beat the C-18 and beat the whole C-11 and C-36 garbage that the government keeps putting down our throats. Like I said, I'll leave links in my description so you can read along and formate your own decisions and your own judgment. And I will be back this Saturday too with another episode of the Crusty Canuck podcast too. Like I said, try to get an episode up every Tuesday and every other Saturday too. So you can pass it on to your friends and let people know that that's how I roll with my podcast. All the better too. And thank you once again to my new subscribers and the kind words out there. Once again, thank you to the fine people at Northern Perspective for giving me a plug on their last show. And I'm going to give you a plug too. Follow Northern Perspective. They're a power conservative couple of Ontario, blue collar valued, common sense valued, and they put on some great content. So I suggest you check out their channel. Tell them that Crusty sent you, and then everything will be okay. But like I say, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Tuesday Rant, Wednesday edition, episode 227. Topics were Tamara Lititz in court, the Z Cup teacher back at work, PM Trudeau in Asia, and of course the Eritrean uprisings or riots that have happened in some of our cities in this country. But things will get better, we hope. All right. But in the meantime, do what you can, help each other out in these trying times. Don't hesitate to give a neighbor a hand. Don't hesitate to give someone a hand. Donate to a food bank if you can. Donate to your favorite charity, a legitimate charity that is. Try to help each other out. And just try to be civil and just try to be kind to the best of your abilities, ladies and gentlemen. Anyhow, like I said, I've been Crusty Canuck on this beautiful 6th of September, 2023. And like I always say, humanity and merit wins the day. Take care, and I'll see you Saturday. Bye for now.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me. Oh, yes, sir. There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
This has been another episode of the Crusty Canuck podcast. Stay sane and thank you for listening. From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast.
Well, smack my ass and call me Judy.